I was thinking, after 2 months at home, some time with the family, time out with the community, in my community, I was hoping those opposite might have spent some time in their community. The Prime Minister might have got out, but no, we're back again in February, and we've got the Prime Minister and the Treasurer telling the Australian people again how lucky they are and how they've never had it better. And then they've now got to get to unfounded spin and scare campaigns. I mean, suddenly we've got members opposite talking about lunches for the top end of town. We now know that apparently a small business with $10 million in revenue is considered the top end of town to the ALP and the government. Apparently that is the big rich people if you earn a revenue of $10 million. But that's not true. It's more spin from the Prime Minister and the Treasurer, because the reality is they have no answers to the collapse in living standards that Australians are facing. 8.7% fall per capita since this government was elected. Yet the Prime Minister and the Treasurer are telling us, don't worry, we failed for 3 years, but trust us, we'll be better next time. We're really sorry we were no good, we couldn't deliver for you, but just trust us. But we know that they can't deliver, and all they have is spin. It was interesting when the Prime Minister refused in question time to talk about how much food and grocery had gone up. That's because it had gone up 12% under his watch. But he talked about, oh, no, we're doing things, we're doing things. We've got the mandatory code of conduct. Now, let's park for a minute that the mandatory code isn't actually about supermarkets and prices for consumers, so it's not actually going to bring prices down. It's about how supermarkets treat suppliers, which is a really important issue. But it's not actually a cost of living measure. But let's park that for a second. The Prime Minister was willing to claim the mandatory code of conduct is one of their policies that has brought prices down, brought inflation down. Now, there is one big problem with that claim by the Prime Minister. The mandatory code doesn't come into effect until the 1st of April 2025. Last time I checked, we're in February of 2025. It is a classic example of the spin from this Prime Minister, the spin from this Treasurer, the spin of those opposite. They think if they throw a line out, it's going to make a difference, but it doesn't. You have to address the core problem at the cause and the symptoms, and they can't do that. They're not prepared to make the tough decisions. We had more spin from those opposite when the Minister for Home Affairs, who I would note seems to spend more time in question time talking about his former portfolio than his current portfolio, which could explain some of the challenges we face when it comes to national security, spends more time talking about his former portfolio, claimed how great it was that the minimum wage was going up, record levels, how lucky, we've done a great job. Again, completely parks two facts. Completely parks that the Fair Work Commission is independent. So really happy to take credit for the independent Fair Work Commission, but walks away from the independent RBA. The second problem with that is, of course, minimum wages are going up because the Fair Work Commission look at inflation. And under this government, inflation has been out of control. Prime Minister doesn't like to talk to it, but it got to 7.8% at its highest under his watch. 7.8% under this Prime Minister. It started to drop off because it's a reflective compounding impact, but Australians are still struggling. We have a Prime Minister that, when it was asked to apologise about his $275 reduction in power bills, couldn't do that, didn't apologise to the Australian people. We saw more spin about the $300 cut that he hasn't paid for, that the Australian taxpayer has paid for. So he's taken money from taxpayers, from all of us, given it back to us. Give me a pat on the shoulder. Even with that subsidy, power prices up over $1,000 under this government, but they won't stand there and apologise. The talk about cuts to health and Medicare and these phantom issues, well, let's look at the actual delivery of the Albanese government. Cut mental health sessions for Medicare. Medicare-funded mental health sessions, 20 under the former government, cut to 10 despite a report saying that it needed to stay. Don't look at what the government say, look at what they do. For 3 years they have failed to deliver for the Australian people.
Authorised by Aaron Violi, Liberal Party, Lilydale.